Hey, what's up guys? My name is Moda and welcome back to the Mining Stacker YouTube channel. Today's video, we have another brand new Scrypt ASIC. This is the Fluminer L1. This is a smaller home ASIC, larger than the DG Home 1 though. It is coming in with pretty good specs from an unknown manufacturer. We'll look at the efficiency of this thing, which is actually pretty freaking good. We'll look at price points. We'll look at just the limited info that we do know and compare it to the rest to see how this thing stacks up and just kind of give our overall thoughts. Okay, so if that sounds good, guys, stay tuned. Let's get right to this thing. So we had been seeing this thing make the rounds on like a lot of the Chinese social media sites. Shout out to T-Swift today. He actually is listing this thing most likely pretty soon here if he hasn't already. And for providing us this info. This is one of the two little beauty shots they have of it. So this is a brand new manufacturer from Fluminer. It's called the Fluminer L1. Horrible, horrible name. Like, how do they love keeping this tradition almost of like horribly naming these things, but for whatever reason that is the name. So the L1, so let's look at the specs. That's what we're concerned with. 5.3 gigahash, which is pretty freaking good at 1200 watts. Spec wise, pretty freaking dope because this is something that most likely, I mean, we have no confirmation yet, but in my head, most likely it's going to be something that is going to be a 110 volt. You can be able to plug in. Of course, this is going to pretty much max out that circuit, but it is something that can be ran on that. Okay, so this is kind of the ideal wattage in my opinion. That's kind of a hybrid of the larger ASICs and an at-home ASIC, right? So realistically, it's probably just going to damn near max out that circuit. You could have some light stuff on there. This size is also very ideal as a heater, right? Especially in comparison to some of the little, I know some people were talking about using these little 100 watt things. 100 watts ain't going to do nothing, right? Even 500 watts, not a whole lot. 1200 watts though is going to heat up a room. Okay, so pretty good specs. By the looks of it, what does it look like? Pretty similar to the DG Home 1, right? So kind of a copy, kind of a clone thing. In our eyes, potentially, so as we look at it, with the other standouts they give us, less than 40 decibels as far as noise goes. So what does that kind of tell us? Most likely it's extremely similar to the DG Home 1. Very possible, very likely that it is also water cooled. Okay, so we don't know yet. We're going to have to wait to see official specs or even a website. So far we have absolutely nothing. Which seems crazy. They would spend all the money in the R&D and developing this thing and not having a website like to help promote this thing. But for whatever reason, I'm assuming right now they're trying to rush this out. Maybe initially it wasn't going to release for a few months, but then this pump happened and they're trying to push it out now. That's most likely what it is. They do have one other shot of it, and again, it's very similar to me. Size-wise, it's going to be similar to that DG Home 1. Again, specs-wise, it's pretty good. As we look at profitability, this is where it does kind of stand out pretty freaking good. As if we break it down, so 5.2 gigahash at the 1200 watts, if you were to do it on nice hash, which is currently paying a little bit more than just straight up Doge, 1858 in revenue, 1570 after is what your profit would be. Okay, so profit-wise, looking pretty good. As far as trying to look for it on some of the major websites, didn't find a whole lot. Again, if you're interested in this thing, I would hit up T-Swift. I'll have a link to his Telegram in the description for any guys who are interested. We'll talk about a lot of the risk factors, though, because there is quite a few of those. So expect it to be listed most likely on some of the major sites here pretty soon, or coming from your favorite ASIC reseller, whoever you're going to use. Was looking through Cool Dragon. They don't have it on their website, but they do have it in their little profitability section. So I'm assuming the listing will come here pretty soon, because as we click on it, it just brings you to a empty page, right? So most likely that is the placeholder. So don't be surprised to see this thing in a few days. So now this is where it gets pretty interesting. Okay, if we look at the specs, let's do a joules to mega hash comparison so we can easily compare it to the others. Again, when they are doing the efficiencies, like for example, when you go on Mining Now and you're looking at the efficiency, they have it at 0.23 joules a mega hash. Easiest way to think about it is 0.23 watts to mega hash, right? Joules essentially the same thing in this scenario. So let's break it down so we can do an easy comparison of pretty much all of them so we can see how this thing is. So watts is what? It's 1200 watts, which is the joules divided by the mega hash. In this case, it's 5.6 gigahash, so move 3 zeros over, 5600. bringing us to a impressive number of 0.21 joules to mega hash. Okay, look at the, is it 5600 actually? No, we messed up. It's 5.3, so we messed that one up. So 1200 divided by 5300 actually, so 0.226. Okay, now let's compare it to the competition. The Volkminer D1, 0.23 joules a mega hash. Extremely close. What does that kind of potentially insinuate? Might be the same chips in this thing. Okay, again, we don't know. We're going to have to wait to see what happens once we have a site, once we have a little bit more info. And then even as we break it down, what does it look like? Okay, this is 17 gigahash, 3900 watts. What is this? Almost exactly a third, right? 5.3, multiply that by the 3, gives you what? 15.9 at 3600 watts. Very freaking close. Okay, so my guess, if I were to guess anything, potentially the same chips, most likely a single board, right? If we break it down, my assumption most likely is just like most typical ASICs, this guy probably has 3 boards. If we break down the specs, it looks pretty close, like this is just a single board version of that. Is it kind of just the off-brand from the same manufacturer? Is it coming from the same factory with a different name? Could be, right? We saw that with like the blue stars and the hammers and all those, and what do we know was the common denominator? It was the same chip provider. Could it be kind of the same thing here? Maybe we'll find out soon as we get more info here, because again, they are just now beginning their promotional push with this thing. So pretty interesting to me. That's what it kind of looks like. So is it necessarily water cooled then? It could be, or it could be just, since it's only one board, it could be low powered fans and it's quiet enough to go there. So we don't know the full specs there yet, right? Hopefully maybe we'll start seeing some leaks of this thing officially in person. We'll see a little bit more. But very impressive efficiency, because when we compare it to the L9, we know that the Volkminer, that's what caught a lot of people's eyes, that it was very close to the L9. Okay, and you can see here the L9 is 0.21. Again, this guy's 0.22. Okay, it's right on freaking par, which is impressive for these small manufacturers. What's a little bit weird is, again, why are these no-name manufacturers able to compete with the L9? What do you think's happening here? To me, like we speculated with the Volkminer, is potential that they have the next model already in line. It seems extremely weird that, again, no-name manufacturers are at their efficiency already. Okay, so again, we don't know. We have no idea. We're just kind of putting 2 and 2 together. Will they release it now? Will they not? Will they wait till the mania of the bull market happens? If they do have anything, again, we don't know. Potentially, right? So just some things to consider, just some things to kind of factor in, right? That's what kind of has me so weirded out with the specs here. So again, that unit though, very impressive. Preliminary price points from the few places I have seen it listed, somewhere in the 3,500 area. So 3,500 bucks. It also brings it down to a third of this guy. Okay, and this guy realistically is a little bit more on most of the places. $3,500. Pretty appealing, potentially shipping in December. Okay, so we're gonna have to realistically wait till we get a little bit more info from a lot of the other vendors, or again, if you're interested, hit up T-Swift. I'm sure he could get more info if you are interested there. But again, in those quick comparisons and comparing it to like the DG1 Plus, for example, it's 0.27, so it's better than that one, better than the regular DG1 at 0.31. And again, the DG1 Plus is more efficient. The reason it's not different chips, this guy has more chips at a lower frequency, and that's what helps the efficiency there. And then when we compare it to the DG Home 1, which is kind of its true competitor, this is where it kind of stands out, right? Because this guy is 0.3 joules to mega hash, so pretty significant increase in efficiency over that guy, which is pretty interesting. Also, this guy is 630 watts. The other guy, it's twice as much, right? If we double the hash rate here, it brings you to 4.2 gigahash. So even just on that front, you see savings there. Most of the vendors now have this thing in the $2,000 range. Okay, you would need 2.5 of these if you're able to buy a half, which you can't. It'd be about 5,000 bucks. This other guy's coming in at $3,500. Kind of a savings there, right? So I know some of you guys were interested in like the Volk miner. It's hard to cough up 10 to 12K for a no-name first, edition ASIC. That's a ton of money, a ton of capital, especially because it's realistically kind of overvalued. At $3,500 though, still risky because again, here are the risk factors. Unknown manufacturer. We have no idea of quality here. This is their first iteration. If it's a water-cooled unit, I would even have realistically less faith in it just because, again, I know it's cool having the liquid-cooled components, but again, it's more parts to fail. Me, personally, I would rather take an air-cooled unit because a fan is easy and cheap to replace. These specialized pumps, you're going to have to rely on it. Obviously, if that pump doesn't work, it's not like you just throw an extra fan on there. You need a new pump. That's what cools the damn thing. Okay, so although it does have a cool novelty factor, I'm personally not a fan. I would rather have fans on there because, again, less parts, less chances of failure. You want longevity on this thing. Over time, things will fail. Okay, so something to consider there. The other big thing is that, again, it's just a no-name brand. Okay, so don't count on too much of a warranty. If there is any kind of warranty, expect it to be like the crap that we get from some of the other manufacturers that are starting out, or even like Gold Shell, for example, where you have to pay for the return shipping on this thing. Wait, who knows how long to get anything. Parts replacement isn't easily available. It's kind of nice when they have the parts availability on their website. Like, that's one thing I did like about Elphapex and even Ice River. Immediately, they made spare parts available on the website. You could buy the spare control board, PSU, fans, cables, right off the rip, any given time. Okay, so like, for example, if I were to get any of those, or like even when I ordered my Ice Rivers, what did I also order? A spare control board, a spare PSU right off the bat. So that way, if there is a failure, swap it in instead of being down like 4 to 6 weeks plus. Okay, especially if we're in a mania phase for these things, and it's even impossible to get replacement parts. Okay, so count on that. We don't know how long this thing's going to last you. Again, the big value proposition with ASICs is being able to mine on it for a long period of time. If that thing doesn't last you, it's a waste. Okay, so these are risk factors. So that's why in order to kind of take the chance on these new manufacturers, the pricing has to be extremely appealing. Okay, in this case, is it realistically? Yes and no. The price in comparison to the others, sure. But in reality, it's just a scaled down version, even price-wise, of the Volk miner, which to me, arguably, is overpriced because it's too close to the L9. The L9, I'd pick all day over this guy, or even the DG1 for that matter. So those are big risk factors. Okay, the benefit, again, is just the price in comparison to all these others. Okay, because I know just a lot of people are all about the damn Scrypt ASICs right now, and it's understandable. Okay, but again, realistically, you should have been here anytime these past like 2-3 years, right? Not now that the pump is here, but regardless, this is where the interest is. Another question we've been getting is what the DG Maxes. A lot of people have been interested in this thing just because they're looking at the profitability thing, but it's just the efficiency, bros. Like, again, for me, the biggest appeal with Scrypt ASICs is the potential being able to mine this entire bull market and then potentially be profitable beyond it. Okay, the fact that this thing is so inefficient, I wouldn't be so comfortable with that thought process, right? Even just comparing it to this guy. This guy's 6.5 gigahash at 3,400 watts. It is hefty to pay 3,400 watts out of pocket, especially if this thing does get to a point where it's at a loss a year and a half or plus from now, if it even lasts you that long, right? So we're kind of, in reality, kind of getting ahead of ourselves. But, I mean, just even eyeballing it, 6.5 gigahash, 3,400 watts, 5.3 gigahash, which is only like, what, 20% difference, but then 3 times the wattage. I think 1,200 watts versus 3,400 watts out of pocket, big-ass difference. Okay, so if this thing were to last you, it'd be more beneficial. Okay, so kind of a tough one. I mean, it's arguably more appealing than the little DG Home 1. I would have a lot more faith, though, in the DG Home 1. Elphapex has been proving themselves to be a quality manufacturer. Okay, and even if they do have issues down the line with, let's say, the little pump dies after 6 to 8 months, I have full confidence that they'll be able to make those available for purchase through their site or have that warranty factor, etc., etc., because they've been showing that, right? Which is, these are the signs we want to see. Like, kudos to like also iServer for also expanding repair centers in the US. Like, these are the types of things we want to see, specifically with ASICs, because again, the main value prop here is to be able to mine with it for an extended period of time. Okay, so although it is tempting because the efficiency and everything else, it's like, realistically, would I go that route or would I just get the DG Home 1? Realistically, probably the DG Home 1. Okay, just because, again, it's going to last you, unless we find out something significant here. Like, if this is actually coming from Volkminer, or we see where the chips are, because not only that, but then how is it cooled? Who's putting it together? What is it looking like? Those are questions that need to be seen. But again, at this point in the game, because realistically, bros, if you take the chance on this thing, you may not get another chance at buying another one. Okay, let's say Doge continues at this point. You don't get this thing until December, January, or maybe it gets delayed, whatever. At that point, you may be kind of asked out, right? So if you're going to purchase anything, purchase something that you have confidence will not only you're going to get, but that will last you the bull market. Okay, so it's totally up to you. You have to come up with a decision, because again, it is tempting at $3,500. But those are the things I value the most, right? For me, I want efficiency, which in this case, this one is better, but also reliability, right? There's kind of like a order in line that I have to go through. Latest and greatest, and the thing has to last you, or at least be able to have good repair centers, parts availability. Those things are super, super important, right? There's nothing worse than getting one of these things and getting one of the 1 to 5% that will be a dud. Okay, you're not going to have 100% where every single machine is perfect. There are going to be the unfortunate people who do get that dud, and you are going to have to deal with it. Okay, so, and in this case, good luck with that warranty process, right? I would have much more faith with the Elphapex or any other Scrypt ASIC in reality, right? So, definitely an appealing unit. Definitely interesting. And again, like we mentioned, for these past few months, I expect to see it. Expect all these random Chinese ASIC manufacturers to pop up out of nowhere with their own variation, and even similar things. Like we see this Volkminer, don't expect to see, or expect to see other variants of the same thing, right? Whatever chip they're getting their hands on, other manufacturers are going to be doing the same thing. And right now, because Doge is the freaking hotness, and is going to be the hotness for quite a freaking while, just like we've been saying for months now, expect to see it. Again, realistically, we weren't expecting sometime until Q1, Q2. That's what we were saying months ago, but because it happened super fast, super quick, and arguably kind of early with the altcoin, with BTC, we're expecting it, right? Not necessarily with the alts. In this case, this alt did pop, and it's just happening early, right? So, things to consider, guys. We are at that point where anything can pop, and we've seen how fast prices will double and potentially remain at those levels. We don't know, right? Maybe something happens, we retrace next month, or specifically Doge retraces. Who knows, right? These are all risk factors, all things you got to consider. Let me know in the comments, guys. What do you guys think? What would you go with, right? At this price point, if you had the money, whether you're interested or not, would you go with the Fluminer, or would you go with the more, potentially, I mean, we don't even know yet, it's not even out yet, but potentially the more reliable unit being the DG Home 1 with less efficiency, with costing a bit more as in terms of price to mega hash? What is your appeal there? Let me know in the comments, guys. Please comment, like, and subscribe, guys. Thank you for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I am out.